So the top news on the Apple stock app this morning for Tesla is that Tesla stock is hit by China woes, particularly earnings from Li Auto. But wait, not so fast. Tesla is actually up, dramatically outperforming the entire market this morning, up $4.17 at this exact moment, 649. And it might be because of good news from China, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Let me start with what I consider to be the most important news of the last 24 hours with regard to Tesla. There's a fantastic new video out giving us a really amazing look at the semi-truck. This video includes a talk and Q&A with the head of the semi-truck division, Dan Priestley. He was over at the ACT Expo in Las Vegas. It turns out that Tesla reached out to ACT and said, we'd like to attend this year. We'd like to be a participant. We'd like to be involved. And so they gave Tesla the stage. Tesla brought over a couple of trucks. Anyway, the video is amazing. I wish we had a video like this one for each division of Tesla. That would be fantastic. Anyway, let me go over the highlights of what was said, and the highlights are highlights indeed. Let's start here. PepsiCo is getting 50 more trucks for their fleet. That'll bring them up to 85. PepsiCo is apparently very happy with the results of their testing over the last year, and they're now in the process of receiving these 50 additional semis. Number two, the total semi fleet has now amassed 3.5 million miles. That's not insignificant. A lot of that is Tesla's own internal use. They are using them for hauling batteries back and forth between Reno and Fremont and other things as well. But that's one of their biggest uses. And of course, those are big full loads going over the Donner Pass, going through desert, sometimes during the winter, going through extremely cold conditions. And in fact, they said that they have really been using the vehicle, even taking it up to Alaska and whatnot, in minus 45-degree temperatures. You really putting the trucks through their paces, and they found that the trucks do quite well. They're very happy right now with what's happening. So, and it says that there's no problem. The trucks can easily handle the maximum legal load and get their 500 miles of range on they're going to make two different versions. One's a 300-mile range vehicle, and the other's a 500-mile vehicle. The energy use varies from about 1.5 kilowatt hours per mile to 2 kilowatt hours per mile, and the average is about 1.7 over all those 3.5 million miles. It can do over 1,000 miles a day, so charging, while charging is an issue, you got to find a time to charge the vehicle if you're going to go 1,000 miles. Even including charging, Pepsi and others have been able. We've shown this earlier this year, but he reconfirmed that it's not really a serious problem. If you've got a couple of 3 shifts, you can get your 1,000 miles per day in normal work conditions. Then they're developing a very sophisticated, very competent service organization because they feel like the most important thing they can do once they've sold the truck is to keep the trucks running. Right now, they're saying that they're managing to keep these trucks on the road over 90% uptime, over 90. I should double check the number. It might have even been 95, but it was at least 90% of the time. And their whole goal here is to have extremely robust service capabilities, but that within Tesla, providing that robust capability to their customers as they grow, but at the same time, recognizing that some of the companies do have their own internal servicing fleets, servicing facilities for their fleets. And so Tesla will modify this by customer. How much do they need training from Tesla of their own internal folks, and how much do they want from Tesla? For instance, he jokingly said, we're not really that interested in changing tires. Okay, then fast charging, of course, will be available. It will be a customized solution with regard to the charging. So when they are ready to go, when a company's ready to start doing business with Tesla or wants to talk about it, the Tesla staff, and he says they want it to be 100% direct. There's not going to be any middle people here. So the new fleet would meet with the Tesla staff, and they would plot and look at what charging is necessary in order to solve the fleet's issues. So some of that might be what I heard him call, I believe, behind the fence. So this will be charging installations on their own properties, where that was the smart way to go. But Tesla says they will be absolutely putting together a nationwide Tesla battery charging facility, just like they did with auto. They're going to do the same thing with trucks. Now that's going to start out in the West, primarily California, Washington, Oregon. He said where people understand EVs in these 3 states. I think that will also include some of the rest of the West. And then he said there will obviously be a very significant infrastructure built out in Texas. He said then we'll go nationwide, and then we'll go worldwide. So they have absolute aspirations for selling trucks worldwide. He also says that they will have, the goal now is 2026, 50,000 vehicles per year, and then scaling from there. They have very large aspirations in terms of being a major player in the future of EVs. We've always talked on this channel about 20%. Brian Wong would like to see it be 100%. So 20% though would be about 800,000. Yes, 800,000 to a million vehicles per year. And out of the 4 million roughly large trucks and semis that are sold worldwide. He says currently the vehicles are getting a faster payback than previously discussed. He thinks it will get even faster. He expects major changes and improvements in efficiencies even between now and when they start rolling out production in 2026. He also made a comment that in general, Tesla is now concentrating on new products again. Their plate has been very full the last 2 years, but now they've turned their corner and are starting to look much more at new products downstream. So I thought that was a very valuable video. There will be much more on this video. It was a long video. I'm just covering the highlights. And Brian Wong, I'm going to have him on later this week to really dig. He's our expert. He is probably, the community's expert on the Tesla semi-trucks. We talked about the whole semi-truck thing. That was one of the things where we broke news when the Elon Musk mission was published, along with especially some of the work that Brian did on the electrical, what do you call it, the battery storage. Those were news breaking back in December of 2022 when we broke the Elon Musk mission. Okay. He also called on the rest of the industry to start building EVs, semi-trucks and large trucks from the ground up like Tesla has done. He says, you're never going to be able to do this as a transition. This needs to be from the ground up. He encouraged them to do that. He encouraged them to reach out to Tesla. He says, we cannot do this alone, making the same kind of comments Tesla's always made about cars. We need other OEMs to get into the business and become successful in order to make this transition. All right, China numbers are out for the week, and Tesla Chan puts it this way. He says in May of 2024, we had the 29th to the 5th was 11,000. From the 6th to the 12th was 9,800. But then this week, 13th to the 19th, we have gotten up to 13,800, which is a 41% increase over I'm not sure what. Anyway, that's what he says. But overall, this is showing that we're getting, okay, so this is Tesla Fan Metal MTL says, I maintain my estimate from the beginning of the quarter that Tesla will be flat quarter over quarter in China. If next week we see another strong print, I will update growth quarter over quarter and also his $413,000 estimate will increase. It depends on how popular the new 0% or zero down payment promo is, but so far, so good. By the way, in case you haven't heard, Kim Kardashian just received delivery on her second Cybertruck, matte black inside and out with tinted windows to match. Huge amount of publicity coming out of the fact that Kim is being pictured all over the country, all over driving her Cybertruck. This from Market, by the way, this is, this is Yeah, Market Watch saying Kelly Blue Book parent company Cox Automotive draws this conclusion in a new study. The study finds that most EV skeptics will consider buying a battery-powered vehicle within 3 to 5 years. 80% will consider an EV within a decade. Despite the fervent controversy around EVs, that timing more or less lines up with the plans of automakers and governments. Car company product plans, federal emission rules, and state regulators converge on a date in the early 2030s when most new car sales will likely be electric. Of course, this channel, my belief, what we said in the Elon Musk mission, is this going to happen much sooner. However, I think I do need to go back. This kind of off year is throwing my numbers into some disarray. And I'm going to go back and review my thinking. You may know, if you've been following me for a long time, I've been saying that 2028 would be the year where we would get very close to 100% EVs in terms of manufacturing, new product. 2028 now seems a little aggressive because of, if you get one really bad year, like we're seeing right now, that throws off the metrics in terms of how the exponential growth can take place. But it may not be so much of a difference. We might be looking at 2029 or 2030. As the technology improves, the article said the U.S. charging network expands and prices moderate further. 54% of current skeptics will become EV considerers within 3 to 5 years. The researchers write. Within the next 10 years, 80%. All right, this is Randy Kirk, by the way. If you haven't hit the like button yet, this is the perfect time to do it. Remember, that helps us. Also, we'd love to have you become subscribers. Hitting the notify button. Of course, later today, you've got Brian White again. Tonight, you've got Nicholas Gibbs. Tomorrow, you've got Scott Walker in the morning. You've got Jeff Lutz in the evening. I mean, these are folks that you are going to want to hear from. All right, and of course, joining Patreon would be such a great help. Market Watch says this morning, the April CPI data was a welcome relief, but there needs to be a number of soft reports before the U.S. Central Bank should cut interest rates, Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller said on Tuesday. So that was earlier this morning. So he didn't say how many months he would need soft reports, but he said a number. It doesn't sound like 2. So maybe 3. He says, in the absence of significant weakening in the labor market, I need to see several more months of good inflation data before I would be comfortable supporting an easing in the stance of monetary policy. Waller didn't define the several reports, what several meant, but he did indicate, the Fed has kept its benchmark rate at 5.2 to 5.5, of course, since July of last year. Fed officials in recent speeches have shied away from putting any calendar date on when they expect the first cut. Traders in derivative markets expect the Fed to cut rates for the first time now in September. I think that has 0 chance because they're not going to do it basically 45 days before the election. Just not going to happen. They can talk about being agnostic with regard to the election all they want to, but they do have to take into consideration the way that particular cut would look. Waller pushed back on fears the Fed doesn't have its benchmark policy rate high enough to slow demand and cool inflation, saying that the April CPI suggests that progress toward the 2% target was likely resuming, and there's no need there. This meant that there isn't a need for further rate hikes, he said. Central bankers should never say never, but this data suggests that inflation isn't accelerating, and I believe that further increases in the policy rate are probably unnecessary, all according to Waller. We also have this from Barron's this morning. By the way, let me just go back and comment on it just really, really quickly. I continue to believe there'll be no rate cuts in 2024. Don't know what's going to happen in the first quarter yet. I haven't thought about the first quarter of 2025 yet. I don't think there'll be any rate cuts this year. I do think inflation is not going to be dropping much further this year. Every evidence I'm seeing right now is that it's flat to up. That's looking at the data mostly, again, from Trueflation, but also paying attention to other resources. We're seeing commodities. We're seeing gold, silver, Natural gas, yeah, oil is coming down. That's good news, and it will impact things, but it's not down that much. I think we're looking at continued flat around this, 3.5% level, but not dropping. And I don't think, as you know, I don't think that the interest rates are that high. There's just not that big of an issue. Will jobs soften up? They could soften up in the third and fourth quarter, and that could cause the Fed to start being a little more concerned. I just don't think they're going to get there in 2024. And if they do, it'll be very late, like November, December. All right, Barron says this morning, Xpeng stock was rising Tuesday after the Chinese electric vehicle maker reported better than expected first quarter numbers. The results show that companies can still improve execution amid challenging industry trends. In this case, we're talking about in particular in China. So that might be helping the Tesla stock situation this morning, in addition to their own better numbers out of China. This from the Wall Street Journal. Here is how JP Morgan Chase described consumers by segment during its conference on Monday. Segments of customers with lower incomes are showing stronger spending growth with signs of trading down and getting a bit less for their money. High earnings segments, meanwhile, are showing lower spending growth with slowing discretionary spend, including luxury and travel retail. Everything we've been seeing so far, I thought, was showing that travel was still doing fine. This is saying, at least on the travel and luxury retail front, the well-to-do are cutting back, are not at least increasing. The bank's lowest income segment of customers have seen the largest negative gains in income, a median of 41% nominal growth since January 2021 across a stable cohort of those customers through March, versus a 21% rise in prices. But the bank's lowest earners' pandemic-era cash buffers have also been shrinking from a peak where they were able to cover an additional 15 days of outflows to just 3 days. Let me say that another way. People had the lowest cohort, the least capable, the folks with the least income in America had actually built up to where they had a 15-day cash buffer to take care of them in an emergency. That is now down to 3 days. If that doesn't give you some pause with regard to where the economy is going, I don't know what kind of a stat you need to see. The article goes on to say, as excess cash buffers have largely been exhausted, we are closely monitoring consumers whose incomes have not kept pace with inflation, the bank wrote in its presentation. This from CNBC, breaking just as I put this up. The home improvement retailer, the other one, the not Home Depot. I'm sorry, Lowe's. There you go. Lowe's actually beat on expectations, but with lower, they had lower revenues and lower earnings, but they beat expectations. Home Depot, as Home Depot had missed revenue expectations, both of them with down sales, complaining of a tougher housing market and a delayed start to spring. So this is just more evidence. This part of the business, this heavier, bigger purchases are still are definitely under pressure. So Tesla's up this morning. Maybe it was the semi-truck news. Maybe it was the pictures of the interiors of the Cybercab. I didn't really talk about that because I need more information before I can really talk about it. Maybe it was Xpeng's beat. Maybe it was the good China numbers. Don't know. Hey, we'll take the good news. So let's go ahead and see where Tesla is now. And it is now up up $4.08. That's about where it's been for the last 15 or 20 minutes, is around $4 up. That compares to the Dow, which is up 61.96, the NASDAQ down 39.46, S&P pretty much flat. We've got the Magnificent Seven mixed with NVIDIA taking off a lot of profit taking right now, down 10, and the rest of them completely mixed up, down, and sideways. And we have the Cathie Woods are pretty much all down. But slightly, not big changes. But like Square, for instance, is down $1.82. All right, let's look at percentages here. We have got the Dow up 0.15%, NASDAQ similar down 0.18% down, S&P as mentioned flat, with Tesla up 2.35%. Looking at those bonds, let's go ahead and see where the bonds and how those are impacting things right now. We have got the 10-year bonds are up. Well, I'm sorry, change all that because the app was not fully action. It was not working right. We have, let's do it again here. The 10-year is actually down 3.5, bringing into question why Cathie Wood stocks are not doing well this morning. That's very unusual for 3.5 basis point drop in Cathie Wood stocks to be down. All right, we have got the 2-year down 1.7 basis points. We're looking at almost 42 basis point spread there. So that inversion opening up from the roughly 35 basis points that has been more normal recently. And the 10-year versus the 2-month is now almost still sitting around 100, where it had been 75 basis points. So that has widened out again, but nowhere close to the almost 140, 150 that it was earlier. Okay, we have got, let's look at the oil. Oil is also down this morning, 69 cents at 79.11. That would be the Texas Intermediate, of course. Brent is now only $3.60 higher, getting much closer to kind of the natural normal $3, which suggests that Middle East is not impacting oil prices that much at this exact moment. Natural gas, a little profit taking this morning, down 1% at $2.72, though still extremely high. I have still not dug into what's going on with natural gas. I should have plenty of time to take care of that today. We have got gold down $6.60, but still at $24.31. We have got silver down a bit too. Copper up another 0.5% at $5.11 as we see right now. Dollar is moving like this. And we have got, I'm sorry, for those of you not watching what I'm doing, the dollar is kind of, the headline is struggling for direction. We have got the Bitcoin up 11:30 this morning, sitting at 77.72. It was at 71 something earlier, so kind of off of where it was. And we've got the, okay, we have covered it. So let me go back one more time and see if Tesla is moving from where it was a minute ago. Still up 2%, $3.56. So it's relaxed a little bit from the $4 of a few minutes ago. But the rest of the market looks pretty much like it did. Okay, so remember now we got Brian White later today. Somewhere I've got to get Brian Wong in here. It might not be till Friday, but we want him to talk about what's happening with semi-trucks in detail. And then Nicholas Gibbs tonight. I'm going to put up a card right now for yesterday's Brian White video, which you absolutely want to go back and take a look at. We looked at Europe. We looked at China. We looked at all the kind of details of what's happening with like the Model 3, with the Cybertruck, all kinds of details about how things are panning out so far this year. Great video. Want to go back. The card will be there. And that's where I'm going to end it for today. It's been great. But not for today, for this morning. It's been great talking to you.